Ta-da! Once again, we are live. Welcome to Eight Questions with. I'm your host, Patrick. Have Cheetah will view. It is a beautiful sunny day here in southeastern Michigan. Still a little chilly, 50. Nice. The cheetah is up and about, so there probably will be an appearance for the cheetah. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Looks like someone had came by and left a message for us. Thank you, Filipino British Eye Story. Thumbs up. Thank you so much. That's a new friend of ours, and just getting to know her and her channel. So far, so good. Love her channel, actually. She's going around and showing us some showcases of different historical sites, and I'm digging it. You know me, I'm a history buff. I love talking history. So um, today, our guest will be Emiko. Um, that's her name. It's just one word. Hey, Harley, how are you? Yeah, me too. Welcome to Eight Questions with. This is the interview show that I do 3 times a week, sometimes four. Sometimes I do two a day. Uh, this is where we interview different newsmakers, we different artists, creatives, whether it be in the film industry, music industry, could be fellow YouTubers. In fact, in May, we'll be talking to many YouTube channels, YouTube creators, starting next Tuesday with our good friend Greg from Fit for Expedition. And we'll be talking to our good friend Ricky from Old AS. Tonight, though, we're talking to documentary filmmaker and musician Emiko. Just one word, and oh yes, yes, that's yeah, yeah, nice stream is awesome. He did a really nice job. He did a really nice job. It was a lot of fun in there today, for sure. The show is aired Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific Time. And so we had another sensational show yesterday with the very talented and bright Angel Bradford, actress, makeup artist Angel Bradford. Tremendous support from you guys out in the community. Thank you guys so much in the chat. Yeah, we were up against it, but it rocked it. We rocked it. It was a lot of fun. And thank you again for coming in and showing up and supporting it. I appreciate it so much. Emiko is a very interesting and very talented artist. She has composed over 3,000 songs in her repertoire. She's won many awards. She's done film composing as well. She's worked in TV. She's composed music for over a dozen shows on TV, including one of my very favorites, which I will definitely be talking to her about how she did that. Um, oh, I just mentioned you, Ricky. How are you, sir? You must be home from work. I know I saw you earlier with Gareth, and I saw that you had to leave because you were at work. But that's right. And next week, next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here, we will be talking to our good friend Ricky here from the Old AF Reviewers, and talk about his channel, talk about his crazy and zany channel, and his everyday life over in Great Britain. That was, like I said, I mentioned sometimes I do 2 shows a day. Anytime that I do a show in Europe, or I do 2 shows a day because they're 5 hours ahead of us. So we do one in the early afternoon, and then we do our regular show at our regular time slot. So, wow, that was quick. You know what? That's all right. our guest is here, so I don't like making them wait in the basement. So what we'll do, I'll get her up here. I'll make some small talk. Wait for you guys to show up, and then we'll get into this. So without further ado, let's invite our guest Emiko to the show. Okay. Ta-da. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hello. I can't see you. Am I supposed to see you?
Yeah. You're supposed to be. Yeah.
See you.
I see you.
You see me. I don't see you.
Yeah. You're running your hand through your hair. Ta-da! That's really weird. That's weird. It's like, wait a minute, how'd that work out? What you can try to do is you can try to step back out and then come back in. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes the glitch is on StreamYard. Okay.
I will give it a shot. 1 second. Okay. I'll be right
back. Yep. Ta-da! Okay. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Get yourself a very light snack, sir, and get to bed. By all means, get to bed. Okay, so that is our guest. We will be talking to her. She's very talented. Holy crow. Yeah, I did not realize exactly who I was talking with until I saw her background. This is gonna be really, really good. Hi, Brene. How are you? No. It's StreamYard, Ricky. You know how it is. Anytime you always go up live on a StreamYard, it always takes it just start. I don't know, for some reason, the beginning of any live stream, it always causes a hiccup. I had one show on. I had the show on Tuesday, with Josh DeForest. I had to keep on hitting it. It kept on freezing on my side. All right, I can't believe we got another month of shows over with. So while we wait for Emiko, I will still go over the calendar real quick. I do got a couple of new announcements to make. Oh, you're flying around, huh? Yes, you are a YouTube gadfly, Brene. I have noticed that. That is awesome. I like, you know what though? I am too. I never really, I mean, I go to a lot of streams where I land. I try to stay at least 15 minutes, stay 15 minutes anywhere I'm at. I don't go in anymore. I don't go in, say hi, then run. I don't do that. I stay for at least 15 minutes, so I know for sure YouTube has captured the views. And then if there's a lot going on in the community, then I will bounce around. Except for Monday. Monday I don't bounce around. Monday I go to Night Watch Zone. I sit right there and I watch Slasher Movie Club. I don't go anywhere. I sit on my hands. Okay, so we do got some we got a new news on a date, and what I'll talk to you about here in a minute. So this Sunday, we are taking a break from our Friday the 13th deep dive, and I will be joined by Echo Zero. Let's see if Emiko is able to come back in. There she is. Ta-da! All right. There she is.
I'm here, but I still don't see you. I don't know why.
I don't know. Yeah, you're coming in perfectly clear for us.
Okay, well, as long as I'm clear for you, I'm gonna actually try to get on the live stream from YouTube. That's why if everybody sees me looking sideways, that's what I'm doing. If I can see problem. Both of us on YouTube, then doesn't. I'd say there's no problem. Oh, you're both We're both there. That's fine.
Yeah, so, you know what? That's what I do too.
Unless you want me to do this from my phone, I can do that too.
Either way, guess what? I use my phone and my monitor. I use the phone for you and I to talk to, and I see the monitor so for the chat. So whatever makes you feel comfortable. Yep, there we go. So hey Charles, how are you? I'm a little blurry. Oh, you're not kidding me. Let me how about that? A little better? I'm a little blurry, all right. My eyes are a little blurry today. Okay, good. Yeah, that's right, Ricky. That's right. But I can tell you what I haven't been drinking. I haven't been drinking any homemade brew. Ta-da!
There we go.
All right.
I still can't see you. This is crazy.
Huh. I guess we'll just go as long as you can see as long as you can see the YouTube off your computer, then just continue to look straight into your phone like you are now.
Okay.
And then or if you need to turn to the side, that's fine.
Let me, you know, I liked it better on my computer because I wasn't sitting in this weird corner angle. I can tell my butt's gonna fall asleep in this way where my phone is.
Oh.
I'll literally be back, and I have it on my other device. I'll be right back, I guess.
Yes, we will. Let me see if I'm gonna grab her Linktree, and then I'll drop that down into the chat, Brene. So okay, here is Emiko's web tree, Linktree, I should say, web tree. God, I sound so old sometimes. Okay, there we go. We're gonna drop that there, and then this is her Linktree, and everything that we need to know is there. And then I can even do better than that. I can actually drop her. I could drop her web page, just her home page, right there as well. Let me drop that in there in the chat as well. This is Emiko's home page, her personal website. So there we go. All right. All right, let me go get her. Gosh, she went me from being early to, I think we're going to start on time. Ta-da!
Indeed. Hi.
There you go. Okay, now you're fixed.
Sure. Well,
okay,
I still can't see you, but I can hear you. I know you're there. I saw you on YouTube. I see all the wonderful people that are chatting. So rather than keep everybody waiting, let's make magic.
I'm surprised that she said when you said that, like I seen you and then in the YouTube, I'm going, and she's still here. Yes, all right. I appreciate that. Hi T Betty, how are you? Brene and Ricky's here. Charles Cochran, how are you, sir? See who else is in the chat. I said hello to our good friend already. Let's see, Ricky's still blaming me for his beard trouble. I don't know. Do you drink beer at all? I know it's a weird opening question, but do you drink beer?
I do drink beer, yes.
Okay. So I'd like to think that you're probably a fine beer connoisseur, right? Now, if you had a choice between drinking like a pint of Guinness or a Bass or Harp versus drinking like a Budweiser or a Coors, what are you drinking?
Between the two choices that you gave me?
Yeah, between Bass, Harp, a good home, a brew, like a small batch of beer, something like a custom beer. versus
like a craft or homebrew, like a microbrew
right.
type of thing.
Yeah. Would you rather drink something like that, or would you drink a Budweiser or a Coors?
I think I would. I don't like to say mean things about brands in general, so I would say this: my preference is to support independent brewists and microbrews and sort of smaller things, but also things that I enjoy in terms of depth of flavor and taste and things like that. So I'm not the biggest fan of Budweiser and Coors. Doesn't mean that I'm knocking anybody that is, but
it's okay because I can do that for you.
Great.
So our good friend over in England, our good friend Ricky, he has a YouTube channel, he has a show, and I tuned in the first time, and there's him and his buddy Pablo, his co-pilot, and they're sitting around talking movies and everything, and they're drinking Budweisers in Britain, and I'm going like, wow, yeah, that's so gross. It's like Britain's one of the finest countries it is for beers, the brew pubs. I mean, everything they have, craft beers. He's drinking Budweiser. And I'm going like, Ricky, you that's Colorado. We call that Colorado piss water here. Let's see. That might have been, there must have been a serious stuff in your own brew. Well, I told him that I kept on saying we call it Colorado piss water. So he said, I said, I told him, I says, your own piss will taste better than what you're drinking. I'm telling you.
Is Ricky known as Old AF Reviewers? Is that Ricky's handle on here?
That is Ricky's handle.
And Ricky is in England, is that correct?
Yes.
May I speak directly to Ricky?
Sure. He'll hear you and he'll answer in the chat.
Okay. Hi, Ricky. How are you? I just want to know where in England you are. I'm asking for a very specific reason. So if you can just chat away, that would be cool.
Well, he answers that question. So he came up there, Derby.
Okay. So Ricky, I lived in London, I lived in Leeds, and I lived in Northampton. And I can tell you that for a fact that you have better than Budweiser. You know that. I know that Budweiser has like a... Pardon?
Preach.
I know that Budweiser has like it's an American thing and this, that, and the other. Like in some pockets, when I say I was in the north of England, I was in the north of England. But I mean, come on. Even if you're not... He's from London originally. What postcode, my friend? Let's talk postcodes here, shall we? Now I'm interviewing Ricky. I know you're supposed to be interviewing me.
No, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the video after we're done here. I'm going to send you the video of him making his own beer. He made his own. Great. It was great. It was awesome, actually. I did not know that he was a home brewer. He didn't know he was either, but he did a fine job on his first batch of brew. He took it. He drank. England, they drink a lot of a lot of their beers like Guinness. They drink at room temperature, and so he did the same. He drank it at room temperature.
Well. So, HP 13, he says that's his postcode. That's like Highcombe area? Is that right? I was NW8 when I was there. I was in St. John's Wood. So, it's true. They do drink a lot of stuff room temperature. I was a big proponent of Old Engine Oil and Speckled Hen, which I know people go, Speckled Hen, what are you doing? But those were like my... Yeah, room temperature, body temperature. I don't know. They could be.
I think for some reason I want to say that that's what it really was. I think they were drinking it because it was like, oh my gosh, look, it's American. It's sort of like how we were drinking Foster's, over here for a while because it was Australian. And then if you looked over Australia would be looking at you going like, nobody here in Australia drinks Foster's. Nobody. It's like, nobody who really seriously enjoys beer, they don't drink Foster's. Here we are over here with those big old cans going like, look at me, mate. Put another shrimp on the Barbie, because yeah. So that's pretty much what we saw here with Ricky and Pablo. They're sitting there, they got the brews there, all the American brews, and it's just like, why would you punish yourself? You're a good person, you deserve better beer. So now this will come back to I'm sure he's going to address this next Wednesday, where he's going to be on the show too. Let's see. How people like Lowenbrow. Yeah, very much like that too. Yeah, except the Germans. You never see a German drink Lowenbrow ever. Never. It's like, that's our version of Budweiser. You're very impressive.
The Germans?
No, you're very impressive. I was looking at
I thought we were still on the beer thing. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of great beers out there. You're absolutely right.
No, I think Ricky is I think Ricky has I think he's learned a valuable lesson about, now I notice that he'll mix it up a little bit. He'll have a Corona, or which is probably still American brewed, or he'll have a Heineken, which is better. That's better. But very, very much less Budweiser and Coors or Bud Light or
I mean, to be fair, he may not have wanted to feel the full effects of alcohol, and so Bud Light or Coors Light may have helped to quell that. And also, if somebody wants to feel, quote, healthier and lower calorie, then they would go for a lighter beer. And I'm not judging. I'm just here to answer questions, apparently. So.
Yeah, no. I think the homebrew that he made, I think it was pretty low in calories, and for sure, I think it was I was just thinking he should make another small batch by next Wednesday, but I'm not sure if he still has the equipment to do it. So, hi, Mr. Dan, how are you, sir? Let's see. He is saying he's watching your Alone with You video. Nice Def Leppard shirt.
Thanks. Yeah, that's one of my favorite shirts.
Let's get into this.
Yes.
So, like I said, you're very impressive. You have a resume. You have a catalog over 3,000 songs. You worked as a film composer, as a TV show composer. You're a documentary filmmaker, which I'm very fascinated by, because I like documentaries very much. And I think we made Ricky lose his lunch over there. He's laughing his head off. So that's a good thing. Ricky's one of the nicest guys on the tube. He really is. Yeah, his channel's fire. It's so much fun. So unfortunately, like I said, it's like 1 o'clock over there, so we don't get to have it very long
right.
when we start this late. So I guess the first question, and you're also a podcaster too, so you know how the game is going. And I have to ask you, where were you born and raised at?
I was born in Washington, D.C., and I was raised between New York City, D.C., and Japan. Wow,
you've been all. I mean, just in the first 5 minutes, I've already learned that you're very international. Lived in England, in Japan. I mean, in America. I mean, how many countries have you lived in?
Well, I've only lived in the States and Japan. Oh, Korea, and in England officially. I've been to far more, but those are the ones that I've lived in.
New York. Now, you were born in New York, and then where did you go after? Did you went to Japan after that?
I was born in Washington, D.C. And,
Washington, D.C.
Yeah. And then from there, I was in South Korea for a couple of years. I'd go back and forth to Japan every year for months at a time, and go to school. I spent half my school year in the States and then half in Japan. And then once I sort of became older, I was then sort of self-imposed life in New York after that.
Now, that because that's your is it because because of the music business being based out of New York?
It was at the time. It's not anymore, but it was.
Yeah,
It was then. Yeah,
yeah, it
absolutely.
used to be. It used to be. A lot of the agencies used to be in New York too, but a lot
Yeah.
they all
Yes.
left. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. I don't know why I'm having. I think my butt might be falling asleep too.
Uh-oh.
What was it? How old were you? Were you in DC before you made your first trek across the ocean to Japan?
Probably a month old, I think.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
So are your parents both Japanese?
My mom is Japanese, and my dad is a Brooklyn Jew, a New York Jew.
Okay. So
Good
was it, by all the travel, I'm taking it you were a military brat.
No, I was not.
Really?
Actually, foreign service, but not military.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Foreign service. That's almost like the diplomatic corps, right?
It is the diplomatic corps, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
see, you had a really interesting upbringing.
Maybe, I guess.
Wow. I mean, you guys didn't. You guys, well, almost like a military type of move. Moving around. Did you feel a little bit rootless as you were traveling around, or were you aware of that, or were you just going with the flow? I mean, how old were you when you realized what your dad did and that you had to travel as much as you did?
I knew from the moment I was aware that my father was my father, like not just some random guy that I see that changes my diapers, but the moment that I really understood that my parents are my parents, I knew this was just part of, because I didn't have a point of reference, right? I never had a point of reference of like, oh, everybody else stays home in one place. I was just sort of, and all the kids that I would meet were also in the diplomatic. So this was our normal. So I didn't think anything of it because I didn't know that there was anything else at that time.
Right. How old were you when you? I'm trying to figure out how old were you? Because your dad traveled between Japan and US. Like, was every 6 months or every? I mean, because I'm trying to figure out where did you stay here in New York? You said it was self-imposed. How old were you when you moved to New York?
I started really, I mean, we had family in New York anyway, but I really started elongating my time there until one day I just didn't leave when I was about 15.
Okay.
And then just sort of minus a stint in Boston for a little bit. And then I came back to New York, and that was really when I just went, right, we're not going anywhere else. New York is my home base now. And so, yeah.
I can understand that, because it must have been very difficult going from place to place to place. You don't really get established. You don't really get a chance to, hang out with friends a lot. Because you could hang out, but then next thing you know, they want your dad to go somewhere else, and next thing you know, there you up and go. I mean,
well,
it is. Go ahead.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't quite as dramatic as that. I think a lot of people think that it's like people in the military have that, but when you're stationed to a post in the diplomatic, you're there for a year or two. You're not there for months at a time. You're there for usually 1 to 3 years is the average. So you do have a chance to lay down some roots or make deeper relationships that you can always come back to as well. So that was, I think we had really the best of both worlds in that sense, because we got to travel quite a lot. I mean, my father traveled a lot anyway, but we got to travel quite a bit, but do it in a I think in a healthy way, not so much in this uprooted type. So that was a good thing.
Now, did you live in the embassy when you were abroad?
Well, we lived the embassy compound is
Right.
what they house a lot of the folks in. So yeah, we were on the embassy compound.
That must have been fun.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're told you have to be really careful when you go outside because you are, part of the diplomatic corps. I mean, you are, you're not the average American walking around. Part of part of the corps. I mean, people would. I mean, there are certain areas probably not. They probably were discourage you from going to certain areas. Um, what was your school like? Were you able to go out of the compound to go to school, or were you taught within the compound?
Well, when I was on the compound, I was still young enough where I was like preschool, and they actually put me. So the first station post we had was in South Korea, and they tried to put me. My parents tried to put me in a regular Korean like nursery school, and the story goes that I was so unhappy there. I think that I had a stuffed turtle or some sort of turtle toy, and I threw it over the chain link fence, and I was trying to climb up the fence, and the teacher came out and grabbed me by my like my diapers or whatever I was wearing, and had to pull me down, and called my parents and said, "You have to come get her because she's trying to escape." So that was my first experience with that. After that, when I went to school in Japan, my mother and father wanted me to be schooled in a regular Japanese school and not in an international school. So I actually went to the same elementary and junior high school that my mother went to when she was growing up there.
Okay, what city did your mom grow up in?
She grew up in a city called Omiya, which is now called Saitama City. They renamed it.
Okay, okay. I thought that was off the coast, isn't it?
Well, all of Japan is off the coast because it's so tiny and skinny.
But I want to say that I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he got hit by the earthquake pretty good.
I mean, it's about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes outside of Tokyo, so it's very earthquake central in that sense.
That must have been a little bit jarring too.
Lots of relatives that we had to call and make sure we're okay, and just check in on people on a daily basis after that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like watching. That was almost like watching we're watching that live, and it was insane. That was yeah. I lived in California for most of my life, and we had earthquakes over there too. But man, I never experienced. I only experienced really one bad quake in all the time there, and we had a lot, but I only experienced it once. So it's like it was really trippy. So I can imagine being in Japan where that's just an everyday. People just don't really, they don't really react unless it's like a really major quake. If it's just a regular tremor, it's just everyday business.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So obviously you're bilingual, if not trilingual. Or do you speak Japanese and Korean, or other? How many languages do you speak, Emiko?
I speak Japanese. I speak obviously English. I speak German, although it's getting very rusty, and I speak enough Italian to get by, but not enough to know better. So
your Italian can get you in trouble.
I know enough to probably get me out of jail. And that's what counts.
Okay, I just want to know what would get you into jail. That's really what I.
Oh well.
Joint jinkies. Hi Laurie, how are you? I'm trying. I'm sorry about this. I don't know what it is. I'm sort of lost tonight. All of a sudden, I woke up. I think I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm sorry about this. So let's get you back to the United States. Now, you said you were 15 when you came to New York, and decided to make that your home base.
Yeah, I'd been living between Japan and Washington up until then, sort of going back and forth. And then at 15, I really was like, okay, New York is it for me. And I started to make a transition to be there full time.
Now, did you pick up your musical skills? You must have picked that up in Japan, right?
Nope.
Wow. So you were here in the U.S. when you did it.
Nope.
Oh, where were you at when you picked up your first instrument?
I was, I guess I was in Korea, because the story that I've been told by everybody, I was kind of too young to remember, was I started playing when I was about 2 or 2.5. And I started playing passages from the Nutcracker. I mean, obviously simplified versions of it. And then I started playing like old Korean folk songs and just random stuff that, was playing in the house. And so my grandmother, who was a professional musician, took note and said, "Oh, this is serious. Like this, she's not just plunking around on the keyboard." And realized that this was quite a serious thing that was going on with me, and talked to my parents, and sort of we pursued it from there, I guess.
I guess, yeah. When you're that young and can pick up music real quick, or anything real quick, they call it what, a prodigy, I think, right? So you would be like a prodigy. I mean,
I'm not. I don't feel. It's never. I don't think it's ever. I don't call myself one. I have had that word associated with me from other people, but I don't call myself that.
Okay. Well, yeah. That's pretty impressive. Most kids don't pick up instruments and understand what they're doing with them until they're and maybe 10 or 11. There are some that are they can I mean, some can pick up a little guitar maybe a little sooner than that, but as far as sitting around and playing and understanding and reading music, it's a little older. It's a little 10. It's like you're 9 or 10 or 11 before you start picking it up. So, but now that you had that, now that you picked that up and you started making music. So when you got back to New York, was that something that was like first and foremost to you, as far as your creativity? Were you as soon as you get to New York, were you into music and that's all you did, or was that just something that needed more nurturing?
No. By the time I decided to make New York my base of operations, I was already performing. I had already recorded my first national release. I had, I wouldn't say I toured. I'd say I performed regularly and sort of traveled around regionally, performing and things like that. I had already, New York was sort of the next. It made sense to be the next step forward. So yeah, the only nurturing was sort of like how to level up from that point.
Right. Now, where did you go to school at in New York?
I didn't.
Oh, really?
I just did music full time. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I wonder if you went to Juilliard.
No, my grandmother did, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't go to any of the big schools back there?
No, when I was in Boston, I went to the Berklee College of Music, but left after a few months because I picked up more performances. And it's not uncommon especially for anybody that went to Berklee would know, it's not uncommon to leave mid-semester or mid-month or whatever, because you took a tour or you have a recording contract or whatever. And so it's very, transient is the wrong word, but it can be temporary in the best of circumstances.
Okay. Did you realize? Did you realize? How old were you? Did you realize at your age this is something that was a little bit unusual? I mean, on your own, without anybody telling you that here you are. Like none of your peers were really doing what you were doing on the level you were doing it. When did you become self-aware that you knew that what you were doing was special?
I think there were probably 3 instances where that happened. One would have been when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old. And I had a friend of mine at the time. We were on the swings. I'll never forget. And she turned to me and she said, I can sing. I'm going to do chorus next year or whatever. And I said, oh, that's nice. I sing too. And she said, yeah, but you don't sing like I do. And I said, okay, let me hear you sing. and she sang, and it was abysmal. It was awful. And I said, oh. And she said, let me hear you sing. And I sang, and the blood just drained from her face. And she said, I'm going home. And she just left. She just walked off the playground. And that was the first time that I sort of went, huh, there's something. Why didn't she stay? Why didn't she stay and like continue to hang out and stuff? So that was really, I think, one of the first times. Another time was I had made friends with the girl who was a full-time ballet dancer, and she only went to school part-time. And the more and more that she and I talked when she was in, like, she went to school like 2 or 3 days a week, and the rest of the time she was dancing. And she said, we're not that different. And then she explained, and I sort of thought, that's not true. I mean, I can't dance to save my life. And then we started talking, and we realized we had very similar experiences. And she really instilled in me how uncommon this was. And that's, I'm glad that I had the experience with a peer rather than some random adult telling me, this is very different for you, and you don't fit in here. But she really helped to normalize it, which was nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you don't really get to see too much at that age. That peer to peer. It's always going to be some adult telling you that. Yes. It's very rare that here you are with another. Especially at that age. I mean, when you're 17, 17 or 18, it's more likely it'll be a peer. But right. When you're younger like that, no, most of the time it's either an adult, a teacher, or even your own parents are telling you that.
Absolutely.
Now, what else did you do creatively wise? Because I can't imagine that's just all you did. I'm sure you wrote. I'm sure you read. Did you? How old were you when you started writing? Writing your music?
I was 8 when I started writing music.
Yeah. And how old were you when you were able to read music?
Oh, earlier than that, like.
Yeah, see, that's different.
Maybe 4 or 5-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't see that. You just don't. I mean, I've been around a lot of musicians, and every time I talk to them or say, how old were you? No one says that. Everybody's always saying that, or like the earliest I've heard is like 9, maybe 10.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, it's always been piano.
Right.
More piano than any other instrument. That's what they learn, and they learn music that way.
Sure.
What was your first instrument besides your voice?
Well, piano and Baroque harpsichord, actually. So another form of keyboard, but a different one nonetheless.
Oh, I love harpsichord. I love it. That's a beautiful instrument.
It really is. Yeah, it's highly underrated and not used nearly enough, I think.
I had an artist friend of mine who her name was Penelope Houston, and she sort of made history in her own self. She was the lead singer of probably the finest, earliest American punk rock band. It was a band called the Avengers. Now, anybody do you know who the Avengers are?
Not in music. I know obviously the film version, but not the musicians. No,
they came up when punk rock was just getting going. In fact, they were the Sex Pistols.
Oh wow, that's very cool.
And blew them out of the water.
Nice.
And she had a quiet period in her life where she just toned everything down. That's what she played. When she played live, she would play at harpsichord.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
That was my first exposure to it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And you're right; it's very underrated. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about songwriting, because that's something too. I mean, now, did you have anybody help you? How did you pick that up all by yourself, or was there anybody that showed you how it was done?
No, as a matter of fact, I wrote my first song when I was 8, and I played it for and I actually physically wrote it down. Like, I still have the manuscript with the notes and the words and everything. I played it for my father, who is extremely creative in his own right, but it was not particularly musical. And my father would sit with me after dinner, and he would play. We had this game called Titles, where he would sit on the couch behind the piano, and he would just call out subject lines, whatever topics of thought, and I would have to sit there and write songs about them. And so this became our nightly exercise. And so while I couldn't credit my dad exactly with showing me how songs are written, I absolutely give him 1,000,000% full credit with encouraging me and really advocating for me to stretch my creativity in ways that I think at a time when like my music teachers were trying to get me back in the box, he was trying to pull me out of the box. And so it was really a wonderful experience.
Oh, why would anybody want to put anybody back in a box?
I mean, think when you're young and you're in a conservatory prep and you're learning a lot of like really heavy-handed classical music, there's a process and a way to perform it and a way to interpret it and a way to be taught it. And right, there's technique and there's dynamics and there's articulation and interpretation and all of these different things that go along with the tradition and the ceremony of being able to play and perform classical music at a very high, hyper proficient level. And there was a lot of pressure on me to do that. And so when my dad would come home every night, it was sort of my opportunity to let loose and just play whatever the heck I wanted with him. And he really threw a lot of curveballs in terms of like titles and subjects and things at me. And I think now looking back, especially, I think he did that to really get me to think about what these things would sound like if they were put to music. And that's, you know, what a beautiful and wonderful way to support your child without directly sort of getting in the line of fire and being obvious about it, right?
You know, it's funny. It's funny as you got older and you started when you're playing. How old were you? How old do you think you were when you were playing that classical music that you decided to, you know what, I'm going out of the box here and I'm playing this differently than what I've been taught? Because that's one thing I don't really like myself. I know a lot of people don't too. I can appreciate classical music. I enjoy it. You know, when I hear it, I enjoy it.
Sure.
You know, and you know, you got to play by a certain set of rules.
Yes,
why?
Absolutely.
Why can't you bend the rules a little bit? Why can't you, you know, strike out a little bit on your own and make the song or the piece, you know, a concerto, or, you know, just make it your own, put your own little stamp on it. I mean, it's so rigid. And I think it's one of the things that I think that really affects people listening to music live. Like, you hear it on CD, it sounds beautiful, but when you go see it live, I guess other than being a fellow musician, like I listen to it and I'm just not really. I just feel sometimes when I'm watching somebody like yourself play, I just want you to rip. Is that wrong to say? Is that wrong?
No, of course not. I mean, I think the classical music is performed to the urtext a lot, to the original text, the same way that lines are read in a movie, or when you go see a play or a musical like a Broadway show, it's done to the script, right? And the actions are blocked and the lighting is coordinated and everything, because that's the way it was written. That is the intended version of the story. So classical music is no different. I think it's just that the ceremony around it it's a marketing thing. It's less glam in the sense, or it used to be less glam. It used to be very sort of buttoned up people in tuxedos and this, that. And now you see, especially like I'm in LA right now, and you see when you go to Disney Hall and Segerstrom and places like that, there's classical musicians with their headshots with like leather jackets and studs and because they want to make it egalitarian. They want to democratize it and I think relate to people that wouldn't otherwise feel like it's accessible to them. So yes, I totally understand the sort of the turnoff at times because it's so rigid, but the same reason that so many books or musicals or plays are preserved over so many years and are considered classics are because they stayed true to the original text. And so that's true musically as well.
You mentioned about the actors, about them working strictly to a script.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the time. Surprisingly, in that amount of, not a lot. A lot of them do improv. They do, they will go ahead and they will take a certain piece and they will go off the script and they'll try and they'll see how it fits them and how their style. And there's a lot of well-known artists that do that too. And they just, they know what the words are. I mean, what you're playing, how you're playing it,
Right.
how, but God, it's just every night being asked to perform that same rigid, that just drives me bonkers. It's why and some of the folks here in the chat will hear me say this before, but it's one of the reasons why I dislike blues and I dislike jazz. Because of the tight confinement of the artist. I don't really like that. I like the artist to be able to go out there and make it their own and own it, and present it to me. Just to sit there and stay in that little, it just drives me nuts. I like an artist that can just get out there and cut loose a little bit. I appreciate the beauty of freedom of choice. Like, I'm going to take this, I'm not going to play it like Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm going to play it like me. And then and the thing is, though, it's like, I guess the risk, though, is that people who listen to classical music, like if you did do that, like if you put in a little bit of a riff or a little bit of a twist to a piece, they're going to get all, and I wish I could say I was exaggerating, but this, but they actually get upset if you don't play the piece exactly like it's supposed to be. Like, okay, this is Beethoven. You can't go out of Beethoven, you can't go out of Chopin. You got to stay right there in that little tiny box. It's like, and if you went off on that, if you said, I'm going to throw a little bit of riff here, I'm going to combine a little bit of Chopin with a little bit of Beethoven in a little, toward the end of the piece. Oh my God, it'd be right in the aisle. So I guess it teaches you discipline, though, and I can understand and respect that. Now, and I love the story with your dad. What a great idea! Given a word, and you go and have to write a song about it.
Yeah,
he
was very creative with that.
That's brilliant. I can see why you have 3,000 songs in your library.
Yeah, I guess most of them were written when I was 8, probably. No, he really did spur on the idea that you can find inspiration in anything. And so I'm very easily inspired because of growing up with that exercise. It's trained me to just be able to do it, which is really nice.
Now, is that an exercise you still do today? Do you come home? Yeah, yes. I had a feeling.
I do. Not every day anymore, but yes, I do. I test myself. Absolutely.
What's been the hardest word that you can remember or recognize? What's the hardest word that he ever gave you that you had to write a song about?
Well, there are 2 that didn't come from my father. One, I was doing a songwriting clinic in Southern California, and somebody said, write a song about being vegetarian. And I thought, what? That's okay. And so I had to think a minute about what that would sound like to me and what the messaging would be. And then the other one was, once I was doing the songwriting circuit, clinic circuit on the West Coast, and people started getting word of this thing that I now call Song on the Spot, which is something that I do in my clinics. People will call out topics and I'll write a song on the spot. And there was this one high school kid that came with his mom, and he said, I've got one for you. And I said, okay, what is it? And he goes, it's a really tough one. And I said, okay. And he said, Yeti lesbian communist astronauts traveling through space on surfboards. And I said, okay, let's do it. And so those were the 2, probably the hardest ones that I've had to contend with thus far.
I think anybody who says that like that, comes up there with a stumper like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they should do that unless they themselves are willing to come up there and write it too.
I don't know about that. I mean, the fact that he was this braggadocious kid and his mom was right there made it all the sweeter, because I think part of why I accepted that, because other people had thrown out ideas too, but I went for that one because I think part of it is as a young person, he wanted to test the authenticity of what I was doing, because up until that moment, as far as he knew, maybe I had friends in the seats call out song titles and subjects that I'd pre-written already, right? I mean, he doesn't know if it's real or not. And so I chose to take his suggestion on because I wanted him to see me sort of get flustered and struggle and realize that what I'm doing is real and authentic. It's not always perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's part of the clinic, is to show how to push through that and how to exercise the forethought and the commitment to see a topic through to fruition. And so the crazier they are, the better, because it does give people the peace of mind that, hey, this is possible. Like, I too can write songs about anything and make them good and commercial and make them something that's viable.
What genre of music do you like to listen to the most? Both has because that's a two-part question.
Okay.
Because you can listen to it as a musician and you can listen to it as a songwriter.
Uh-huh.
I like listening to like country. I like listening to country music. What I don't particularly like is I don't like the lyrics, because the lyrics are about as pedestrian and as they're about as boring as you can as white bread.
Okay.
Yes. It's like every song is so simple.
Right.
If I ever heard the word girl and world in the same damn in the verse, it drives me bonkers. It's like, wow, you can't come up with any other rhymes than that, right? Everything. Oh, Lord have mercy. So let me ask you that question. What's as far as that goes, what genre do you like as a singer, and what genre do you like as a songwriter?
As a songwriter, well, it changes from time to time. I mean, I really like, my favorite singer-songwriter on earth is Billy Joel. Everybody that knows me knows this about me. I'm fanatically addicted to all things Billy Joel. But like recently, in the last couple of years, I have started to revisit my love of progressive rock, and sort of orchestral progressive rock, because the stuff that I'm writing now and the projects that I'm working on are much more involved. And so I tend to listen to the things that are feeding my brain for what I need to do during a specific moment in time. So I've been listening to like a lot of Marillion and early Genesis and Dream Theater, Liquid Tension, even Meshuggah, which is far more, I think, prog metal, speed metal, and stuff like that. But that's something that I listen to as a composer. As a songwriter, that's a good question. As a songwriter, I mean, I really, I fall down the Billy Joel rabbit hole, and I'm kind of stuck there because I could listen to his stuff all day long.
I love Billy Joel too. I love Billy Joel too. It frustrates me that I don't know the man personally. I know he had problems toward the end of his career.
His career's not over; it's still going.
Yeah, he sort of got derailed, though. I think.
I think it's sort of altered.
It had nothing to do with his music. It had to do with the man himself. He had his struggles, and I think it affected him. Songwriting, because he was on fire. Anything he touched and put out, which it's confusing to me, because it's like he made so many great hits, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, maybe it's one of those things where he's so good, he's too good, because now everybody expects him to top the latest hit, and it isn't always going to happen. Wow, what are you gonna? That was a great song. You won a ton of Grammys for it. What are you doing next? It's like, why do it have to be necessarily a next? why can't I just relax and come out with something fun and funky and maybe a little bit different? I think he put a lot of pressure on himself internally, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there is the pressure is real though, because it's not just internal pressure. I mean, there's pressure from the record company, there's pressure from the manager, there's pressure from the band, there's pressure from the publisher, because all of those are mouths to feed. And so you're only as good as the last thing that made everybody money, right? So you're the head of the table and the head of the household. You have to go out and earn, which means you have to go out and put new stuff out. So it is a very high stakes, high pressure position to be in when you're in a place like he was. Now he's much more like he's got his residency at the Garden and he's doing fly-ins, and it's much more, I don't want to say relaxed, but the last time I saw him, he joked around and he said, "Yeah, we're the house band," which I thought was really clever and cute, because yeah, technically you're the house band at Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's ginormous, and he sells out every month. So yeah. I think it's a beautiful transformation for him, in spite of the personal struggles and changes in his life that he's had, and he's handled them with, I think, as much grace as one can given the circumstances.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that for him. I really do. I like I said, I enjoy his music. I think he's a brilliant songwriter, and he's very innovative. And sometimes things like that happen. But the big difference is that he actually got to get out there and push what he had inside him out. A lot of singer songwriters, they someone like Amy Winehouse, she could have been absolutely brilliant, except that it was like I want to do this, I want people to see me, and then it's like, okay, revealed the curtain, all of a sudden it's like, maybe I don't want to be seen, maybe I don't want to do this anymore, and then you got caught in the crux. It's like you thought this was what you want, but maybe not, maybe not, because of the pressure.
Absolutely.
Do you find yourself, your music that you compose, do you find it influenced by anybody, or is it just completely you? Or maybe your father's your biggest influence?
That's a good one. There's always influences. There's always influences and always inspiration to be found everywhere. And credit where credit is due. I mean, Billy Joel obviously is huge influence in my songwriting, especially when it comes to the type of music I put out as an artist. But what I do as a composer, what I do as a producer, it's really changed and evolved quite a bit, because that's where it gets a little tricky, because at that point, it's not about who's influencing me. It's more like, well, what do I love listening to, and how do I interpret that? Right. So it's much more subconscious at that point. I think it's fairly easy when people listen to me play on the piano and sing, they go, "Billy Joel," and I go, "Yes, no problem, contest, no conflict, no denial there." But then if you listen to other things that I've put out, and especially like guitar stuff and more recent productions, it really crosses the line into a lot of different things. I have a lot of influences in funk and soul. I'm a big Stevie Wonder fan. I love, from the progressive side of things, King's X is one of my favorite bands on earth. I'm trying to think. I love, I know you said you're not the biggest fan of jazz, but vocal wise, I love Sarah Vaughan, especially her live albums. I thought were just mind-blowingly amazing. There's a lot of, it's a whole mishmash of stuff. And so I got over the idea of putting myself into a genre box fairly recently, as a matter of fact, because I don't think it does anybody any service in the position, if they're in a position like mine. If you're in a position where you are only writing one type of genre of music and you're only trying to be one or two things, that's different. That's cool, because you should present yourself in a way that's easy to understand and that's clear. Absolutely, 100%. But in my case, because I do so many different things, it's limiting and counterproductive to do that.
I have a story for you. I have a story for you guys. You guys might get a kick out of. So I went a long time ago. I worked in another life. I worked in live music, and so I worked with a friend of mine, like a brother to me. His name's Jimmy, and before me and Jimmy met, I actually got out and got a chance to go see the Scorpions play. I got free tickets,
Nice.
so I went out to see the Scorpions.
Nice.
And opening for them was King's X. Now this is a
Even
big
nicer.
arena. Yeah, yeah. It was just like, this is awesome. This is my first time listening to King's X. I think a lot of had to do with, looking back at it, I think a lot of had to do with the fact that, opening band comes on. There's not necessarily a lot of people there, and they're not, but they went out there and they played, and it just seemed really tiny. You just wanted to stand up there and say, "Turn it up." So when after I met my buddy Jimmy, and he says, "Oh, King's X, I'm good friends with them all. Him and Doug were very close, Doug Pinnock, and so I don't know why I decided one day to tell him this story, like about my time I saw King's X live, and I was sitting there going like, man, they were really quiet. They needed to turn it up. And so, lo and behold, we got King's X to come play the venue I was working at, and here comes King's X, and it's like they're loading in or whatnot. This is like a year after I told him this story, but he never forgot it. So here comes the band. Here comes Doug and Jerry and Ty up in our office, and we're all introducing ourselves and everything else. And then my friend, after a whole year, turns around and tells Doug, says, "Yeah, this is the guy I was telling you about that wanted you to turn up at the Scorpion show."
No.
And I wanted to, I was so, yeah, I was so embarrassed. I was so
Oh my
embarrassed. I'm
God.
like, yeah, that's exactly what I said. And and I said,
That's
well,
that's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, right there, face to face, and go like, yeah, he said he wanted you to turn it up. And so it gets a little bit worse. They go outside, they go out there, they start playing the show. About halfway through the show, and he gets on the mic and says, "Yeah, this is for the guy who wanted us to turn it up. So how is this loud enough for you?" Man, I'm just telling you, it was a very fun
Oh
day. It was
no.
fun. It was a fun day, but it was also I was embarrassed.
No,
Just like
I'd be mortified. Are you kidding?
I I
Goodness.
I was totally mortified. But I
Wow.
love King's X is awesome. And you mentioned another band I worked with too, Dream Theater. Dream Theater was a brilliant brand, brilliant.
They
I
are.
always wanted to work with King Crimson too, but never got a chance. Um, so now, how did you get into composing? Now you compose both for film and for TV, so I know that's the two different worlds right there. And you actually composed music for a favorite show of mine, a show called Clean House.
I did?
You did,
I might have. I
yeah,
might have. That must have been a while ago. I have a
yeah,
lot of projects.
yeah. Yeah, it was. It says one episode, but I'm like, hell yeah, she did music for an episode. I love it because
Yeah, I get a lot of sometimes one-off things, or sometimes people will ask me, music supervisors will ask me if they can use music I've already written for the episode or the series. And so there's a lot of that. So when people say, "Oh, you did the music for such," I was like, I don't know, did I? Maybe. I don't remember.
Oh no, he did. I love that show. So when I was like, wow, that's so cool. But what's the difference between for you? What's the big difference between composing for for film versus composing for TV?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for series composition, meaning usually for television, or for web or cable or whatever, it's it's different because you know that it's coming back next week, or right, for a certain number of episodes. And so you have to let things, well, I do, you don't have to, but my way of working is I like to let things develop and build differently than if it was just motion picture, which is you've got 90 minutes or 120 minutes to tell your story and then boom, you're out, which is very finite. So the development of things like soundscaping, and I'm just going through this now, as a matter of fact, in the first season of a new comedy series that I'm working on called Godmother, which is coming out really soon. We have this character, I can't say too much about it. We have this character who, she's this sort of like this bumbling neighbor, kind of like head in the clouds kind of lady. And the director wants me to give her sort of a theme every time her character appears in scenes and things like that. But her character develops, and you find out later that she's quite sinister. And so I had to go back from the original theme that I developed and change it over the course of 7 or 8 or 9 episodes, because of this development that happened in the storyline. Whereas in film, you don't have to do that in the same way, because it's continuous from the start of the film to the end of the film is one sitting. Whereas in episodic, a week will go by, or whatever the next episode is going to be. So that's something that is really different in terms of how to develop the music. I don't know if that answered your question, but
no, I can understand why you have to go back. I would understand, you're already playing it for a lighthearted, and then, because that's really what's presented to you. And then next thing you know, then you see that, oh, now she's going to be a little bit shady. So you can't keep it lighthearted. So you have to start sneaking in very slowly, very subtly.
Yes.
You have to sneak in a little dark, a little dark theme,
Yeah. Absolutely. And then you have to make sure that it works with everything else that's going on. And every week, because it's different, because you're writing to 30 minutes, right? Or 60 minutes, depending on what you're doing. But you're writing in chunks. Whereas again, in film, you're writing one full breadth of the project. So that's a big difference in terms of how to prep everything. The timing is also very different. And film is one continuous thing, whereas episodic is literally episodic, and it's portioned out differently. So your time management in the studio, and how you compose, how you pre-produce, how you produce, how you edit, all of the sort of the less glamorous technical things are very different as well, because you're on a different schedule. So yeah.
Now, do you do your composition watching the movie or the TV itself, or do you go based on a script or what a director wants? I really want this to be like a solid dark theme, and then do you go back there and do that, or do you get to see what you're composing against?
It's a little bit of all of those things. So sometimes they'll send me a script first, and they'll say, read this, and I'll read it. And then we'll have a meeting with the director and with the producers, and then we'll sort of go through, we'll talk it out. We'll make what they call production notes. Sometimes I'll get a work print, which is, they'll send me the film, not color corrected, not edited, but sort of this is the final form of the dialogue. Here you go. This is the running time, go. And then other times they'll send me piecemeal, an episode at a time. And then sometimes they'll send, I did a lot of music for a show called American Pickers, and I was with them for a few seasons, and they would send me a scene, and then they'd send me a brief. So a brief is literally notes of what they want. They'd send you the scene, and the music that you're writing for may or may not be the scene that they're sending you. They'll send you the scene and go, watch this. Sometimes it's a point of reference. Sometimes it's exactly what you're composing for. So there's a lot of, you're forced to be extremely malleable and versatile when you're working as a composer.
You get to come out of the box.
Yes, exactly.
Now you understand where I'm coming from. See, I love that. See,
it all paid off. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just you gotta stay right here. Don't go out of this area. No. Because American Pickers, I'm not sure if anybody knows about the show, but it's a very fun show, still going on today.
Yeah.
And it's about two guys, Mike and Frank that go around the country and they look for antiques to buy and to restore. I used to watch that show. Me and my wife used to watch that show quite a bit. Those guys were a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Um,
they are.
that
They're
must have
always
been
on misadventures and doing crazy deals and stuff. It's
right.
it's very cool.
Except Frank always lowballed everybody. That's the only thing that got me is like, dude, come on now. You're sitting over there going like, you're sitting over there saying, turning to the camera saying, yeah, I can sell this for like $300, but I can give you $25 for this.
Right.
It's like, why can't you give them like 75? You're gonna make 300. You know, but yeah, that's a fun show. Now that must have been. I just can't imagine how much joy that must be to do that. But film is different, right? Because film is a little bit more, like you said, it's one big long breath. So that's gotta be hard, and it's longer.
Film is longer, and it's funny when I gear up to do. I don't know how to say it other than this. When I gear up to do episodic, so like if I'm doing TV work or web series work or cable work, I feel like I can compose in sweatpants and a t-shirt. Like I know that sounds sort of silly, but then if I'm doing film work, I feel like I have to put on a suit jacket because there's
Sure.
just so, and not taking anything away from the episodic work, but it's a different animal. It really is, and it has to be approached in a very, very, at least for me, it's approached in a very, very different way. So yeah, it's a totally different mindset, and the preparation and the mental focus is really different. Like I was really stunned the first time I did one of each concurrently, and I thought my brain was going to explode.
It's no disrespect to the TV composer, but honestly, like I can name you some of the other composers, some of the film composers, like Hans Zimmer or Maurice Jarre or
sure. John Williams,
John Williams.
Absolutely.
But I can't do that. I can't do that with TV. I don't know who makes the music for Barry. I don't know who makes the music for any of the top shows on TV. I don't know the composers, because but the movies you do, they're well known.
Yeah, well, the movies, the music is much more prominent. Like in an episodic, the music is there to carry the dialogue and it's there to support. But in film, it's there to paint a picture. Like Star Wars is a great example. There's so many action scenes with either little or no dialogue, right? So they're establishing scenes, there's transitions, there's all sorts of things, but there's music carrying this through the entire way. So you feel like you're going on the journey with the cast. Whereas in television, they used to have these great TV theme songs, and now it's like, and then you're in. There's nothing.
Yeah, there's no intro anymore.
They sold all that space to advertisers, and so now that music is quite background. Like they call it music bed because it's quite background and underneath everything. Whereas film is it's much more prominent. It's a much more contributing aspect of the production. So it is, it's very different. You're absolutely right.
So you do film and TV. What do you do for yourself? Have you made any music from yourself? Like if we wanted to buy Emiko's original songs, are you a vocalist as well as playing your instruments? Do you sing as well as you play?
Tons of stuff available all over the place. Literally all over the place. The two most recent things that I put out are a full-length album that I did during the pandemic called LA After the War, which I'm super proud of because we all recorded this in quarantine separately. I still haven't met the bass player. Like I've never met the bass player that played on my entire record. I have no idea who he is. I mean, I know his name obviously, but like everybody did it remotely, and it was so it was amazing, and it came out really, really well. So that's something that's fairly recent. And then last year I put out a single with my good friend Mike Exeter, who's a Grammy award-winning producer who works with Judas Priest and Black Sabbath and a bunch of other people. And we did a reimagining of David Bowie's Heroes, which was a beautiful collaboration. So those two things. There's a bunch of other stuff that's out in the world that you can find. that I've done also. So yeah. And and then there's an album that I did with members of the Parliament Funkadelic and the Winans Gospel Family and my good friend Justin James Bridges, under the moniker of the band is called Booker and Bridges Delight. And we released this, it's a real cool like funk soul album called World Jam-demic. Sort of hard to say. And that came out last year as well. We did a lot of music during the pandemic, actually. Now that I think about it.
It's funny. Like, we hear, it's amazing because we hear how everything has been shut down, everything shut down. And then once I start talking to people, I sit there and say, so how did you handle the pandemic? Were you bored, were you bored stiff? He goes, oh no, we were out making movies.
Totally.
Like, oh,
totally.
Yeah.
I've done more film composition and TV composition and more music and content creation since the pandemic that, whenever somebody would say to me, man, I just want things to go back to normal. And I was like, really? Because my normal wasn't great compared to what it is now. So I'm going forward with this. Why don't we make a new normal and become more creative and spend more time doing things that feed our soul and that are of service to our communities? And so, I think there were a fair amount of people that got really busy creatively during that time, which is a wonderful blessing.
Yeah. I mean, for some people, it's your own worst enemy is being alone. But for some, like yourself, it's you're able to just cut loose.
And not discounting, of course, the countless number of people that lost their lives and who got sick. I mean, obviously, it was a very serious, extremely serious thing. But for those who were able and had the ability to soldier on, I think it was a real opportunity for us to flourish in that way. So trying to make something positive out of a negative,
Right. I mean, because sometimes the most beautiful and beautiful thing sometimes is seeing devastation and yet see something come out of it. You see a flower here or an animal there, and you're just like, how something came out of it.
Right. Absolutely.
So I get that. Now you are a filmmaker, and you are a documentary filmmaker, which I found really fun because I love documentaries. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
As a film composer, I mean, what did you think, as a film composer, TV composer, musician, when did you get the urge to try to do something like that? I mean, was it when you were making music for somebody else's project? You're going like, I could do that and I could score it.
No, ironically, the first time I found out, I became a director by accident, is what happened.
Many do.
No, it really was. It was, I had worked on one documentary that's not publicly available because it's we haven't had a theatrical premiere for it, and so we want to keep it until we do, but it's in festivals and stuff. The other one has had theatrical, and so that's out in the world. But we started entering these two in film festivals, and I never signed on as the director. I signed on either partially because I was producing it, or I was doing the music for it, or I had a hand in putting together the team and the crew, because I have a production company, and so sometimes we get work and we get asked for referrals of like, hey, can you do something like this? We say, oh, it's a little outside of our wheelhouse, but we're not going to say no. We're just going to big fat do our best and make it happen. And so it wasn't until this one particular documentary started going into festivals, and we realized, I was talking actually to my agent about it, and I said, we had to fill out all these forms for these festivals. And I said, we don't have a director, actually. We have an editor, we have a producer, and we had some other things. But I said, I don't think we actually have a director. And she said, well, who did this? And she gave me this list of who did this. And I said, I did. And she goes, okay, you're the director. And I said, wait, what? And she said, you're the director. And I said, no, I'm not the director, because I never signed up. First of all, I wasn't paid as a director. We could start there. But I also didn't sign on as a director knowingly. And she said, but this is what a documentary director does. Because to me, a director was always like a Steven Spielberg, right? It was like some guy in a big duffel coat sitting in one of those director chairs with his megaphone or bullhorn, monitor screens everywhere. I mean, I've worked on enough productions to know what a director is and how they are and how they operate and what their roles are. But it never dawned on me that documentary directing was something completely different.
Yeah.
And I said to her, well, I do this every day. And she goes, yeah, you probably direct a lot more stuff than you realize and you're not getting credit for. And I picked up that, hey, listen, I started calling people that I was working with. I said, just so you know, that director credit is, that goes here. And everybody was like, well, yeah, of course. And I was the last to know. I had no clue, zero clue. Nobody told me. And nobody told me because I didn't, it was never on my bucket list or my goal list to be like, oh, when I grow up, I want to make documentaries. I was already living my dream, being an artist and being a composer for major projects and artists and things. So documentary, I mean, whatever, sure, yeah, I'll write music for it. I had no idea that what I had done was ended up directing. So that's literally the accident that happened.
What was it? What documentary was it that happened with?
There's a so the one that's publicly available is called The Human Side.
Okay.
And it's a documentary short about hi-fi and the audiophile community. Very niche topic.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw your podcast. You have a podcast, The Hi-Fi Girl. Yeah. What is audio? I mean, are you talking about? I mean, I don't want to sound. I guess I am going to sound a little clueless here. When you talk about audio, are you talking about just equipment? Like, or do you talk? Are you talking about instruments? Are you talking about speakers? Are you talking? What is that? What is the audiophile community?
Sure. So an audiophile is typically defined as, like, the dictionary definition is someone who's enthusiastic about preserving the replication and reproduction of music from its original form. So like, meaning if you have a song that you really love, you're not going to compress it down to an MP3 and just listen to it in its lowest possible form. You want it uncompressed. You want it to be as high resolution as possible. You want to use the best possible equipment, and you want to have your room treated in a certain way. And it's all about, so it's about the listener. It's not about the music creator. So audiophilia typically addresses the music listener and the receiver of the music in that sense. So yeah, there's a lot of talk about home stereo systems, home theater,
Right.
Sort of educating the community about what an elevated listening experience is. And for me, like, I think for a lot of people, it stops there. It's like, oh man, check out my system. I spent $9 bajillion on it, and isn't it cool? And it glows in the dark. I mean, okay, fine. But for me, I think because I'm a music creator as well, like, being able to approach people who are in that community and say, listen, just so you know, having this better listening experience also affects your brain. It affects your physiology. It affects your neurology. It affects your chemical makeup, because sound travels in such a way where it affects our development. So there's far more valuable reasons why I think that hi-fi and audiophilia are actually vital to everybody and should be afforded to everybody, and not just to sort of like a select few. So that's what this addresses.
Yeah, I think a lot of like, there's a lot of the folks in the chat, they're movie buffs, and so they, a lot of them have 4K systems, 4K.
Yeah, sure. And if you have 4K, then you might have surround sound or Dolby Atmos or spatial audio or whatever you're using to have the full immersive audio experience, because you're talking about sound effects and spatial cues and things like that. So that would be the home theater equivalent of an audiophile experience. That, in words that I think that are relevant in this case. Yeah.
So when you set up your own studio, now you did your own studio, then you set up everything, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What's it like for you? What's your process like as far as, writing? I mean, can you hear, with a really good sound system when you play it? Do you hear your mistakes more often or not in the system? Is that one of the reasons? Is that one of the reasons why? Is that one of the reasons important thing to have, so you can go back and fix it, maybe, or change this to something you're not happy with. You're going like, now if you would have had a regular system, like I'm trying to think of a system back in the day, but with a top-notch system, you can sit there and say, I didn't hit that quite right, or I didn't like how that sounded. I didn't, let me go back and rewrite that chord.
Right. Well, I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, but I like to get all the mistakes out in rehearsal and pre-production, so we go in and we're prepared. But I will say it is extremely helpful to have, if I feel like if I'm in the mixing process, or if I get masters back and I have to check masters, or if there's something with dialogue that I want to test out, to make sure that the levels are right, and to make sure that as much of the emotion is conveyed as possible. Because hearing them on, and there's nothing wrong with like desktop or computer-sized speakers, there's nothing wrong with it, but hearing them in a much more immersive environment can, you're right, lead us in terms of the process to, hey, maybe we want to amp that up, or hey, that frequency is causing some weird interference in that low end. Like, we better pull that out of there. So there's a lot of reasons technically for having for having an elevated system, but more than that, I mean, it allows me to enjoy music and theater more, and it's really like, once you have it, it's really hard to go back to a normal situation.
As far as a film composer goes, do you think women are starting to make some strides in that direction? Because it seems to be a really male-oriented field, and it's like, I think that sort of sucks, actually, because like, I used to love James Horner. James Horner used to be my man. I used to listen to his stuff a lot. I was like, and then I noticed that one thing about Mr. Horner was that he was a horrible thief of himself. He always plagiarized himself. And pretty soon I started noticing all his scores all started sounding the same.
Right.
I mean, whereas Hans Zimmer or Goldsmith or whatnot, theirs are always different and unique. But James Horner, I mean, rest in peace. But oh my gosh, he listened to any of his music, go to Spotify, just type in his music and listen to it for an hour. I'm telling you won't be able to tell which movie it was from, because it's all running the sounds the same. But are women getting a chance to make as far as major studio pictures? Are they starting to make some inroads into this?
I think, not just in the composition role, but in the directorial role, in the production roles, there are a lot more women who are being afforded the opportunities to be front and center, what we call below the line. So the technical and the creative that are non-acting positions. I think that there's a long way to go until there's not just equality, but fair equity, and like comfortable fair equity, which is important.
I got to be honest with you. I never understood that. I don't understand how. If someone who makes a film and composes a score or theme music, is like, why is it you're paying this person over here $70,000, you're paying this person here $50,000, and they're doing the same damn thing for your movie? I don't get that at all. I think it's like, should be just a one. I mean, I understand if like, well, yeah, but John Williams has got 10 Oscars. Okay, that's awesome. How did he get that? How did he get those Oscars? Well, he made great music. And I'm like, yeah, and what else? What else is there? Right. He got a chance to actually show off what he could do. He could have been the greatest thing since sliced bread. But until someone gave him a chance, what does it really matter what he could do or how good he is? And it's the same thing with women. It's like, pay them equal to what they're doing. They're creating just as much as a male is. I mean, they're out there doing the same work, whatnot. So pay them their money.
Yeah.
Show
No,
me the money. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's been tremendous strides thus far. What's interesting to me is in the early days of Hollywood, like when it was still Hollywood land. So we're talking in the 20s, right? And
Right.
even before, like the early teens, women had far more power in the industry historically. I mean, if you look at someone like Mary Pickford, who was part of starting a picture studio, that's huge. If you look at somebody, jump forward into the 50s, you're looking at somebody like Lucille Ball with Desilu Productions and Desilu Studios. I mean, they not only put out I Love Lucy, they put out Dick Van Dyke, they put out Andy Griffith, they put out Star Trek, they put out anything by Gene Roddenberry.
You know who the two most powerful women in Hollywood were?
Well, it depends when.
During the 40s and 50s.
I'm sad to say neither of them were Tallulah Bankhead, and that really pains me because I love her.
Actually, they were both writers, and that was Hedda Hopper and Louella Parsons.
Right. I just watched a documentary about Hedda Hopper, as a matter of fact, the other day. Yes.
They were the power brokers. They decided if a star became a star or not based on what they
controlled the strings by what information they put out and who they recommended to do what. And yes, absolutely.
They were absolute queens.
Yeah. And it's funny that Hedda Hopper became Hedda Hopper through Llewellyn, but moreover that she was trying to break into acting, and she had all those stereotype typecasting parts that she always played, and then she really found her stride when it came to writing her column. And so that was really, again, because somebody gave her a chance. Somebody saw something in her and said, hey, let's buck the trend. I think that was the biggest thing in all of these cases when it comes to we'll use John Williams and we'll use women. Not just somebody giving them a chance, but somebody going, let's do something different for a change, right? So the chance is being coupled with, let's do something that hasn't been done before. And that's really where you see, I think, cultural change in terms of industry-wide augmentations. And there's been a fair amount of that recently, but the dialogue is continuous. It's always ongoing about how we can make it better for everybody.
Right. As long as you feel, do you feel like, are you happy where you're at right now as far as that goes? Are you happy at the place you are in your career, or are there still goals that you're still chasing, like scoring a major studio movie? Is that a goal for you, or do you just want to make, do you want to, I asked you before, I don't think I got an answer, but are you a vocalist as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So, what would make you more happier if you got a chance to do it right now? Saying, someone give it to you and said, "Listen, I want you to score the next Batman movie," versus, and someone said, "I want to record an album with you, a singing record." What would you pick, and why?
Well, I hate to give you this answer because I know you're not going to like it, or maybe you will like it. I don't know, but I'm going to answer it honestly. The biggest blessing that I have in my life, truly the biggest blessing that I have in my life, is that I don't have to pick. I can do them all. And so for me, the next thing on my list is just to keep doing what I'm doing, but doing it bigger and doing it at the next level and the next level and the next level, and continuing to not just push myself, but embolden my colleagues and my peers to do it as well. So I feel like I'm in a really unique and really, really lucky position to be able to say that. That's the first time I've ever said that in public before, like to an audience, but it's true. It's very true.
Yeah, I can see, I can definitely see that. And I personally, I would have, my answer to that, my personal answer for that, I would actually see you, and this is coming from a guy who did live music with bands and vocalists and everything, deal with hundreds of them. And somehow I thought if she had to pick one of the two to do, she only had one. If she could only do one, I think it would be actually be the score. I think you would love it. Yeah, I think if someone came out there and said, "I want you to do the next Batman movie, score the next Batman movie," I think you'd do that.
Well, my parents, I tell you, my parents would agree with you there. They would. I'm like I said, I'm just really blessed that I don't have to pick, and that I've been offered, some really cool touring opportunities and some scoring opportunities. And we have 5 films in pre-production right now. One of them starts production in August, and then our film production schedule is booked through 2024 right now with all of this that we're doing. So, I mean, the plate is full in a really good way, and there's always people that are asking to
work with you,
partner or align with us, and it's really wonderful, because what it shows me is that the entertainment industry is alive and well. People are looking for opportunities. They're creating opportunities where none exist, and they're inviting others to participate, and that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I would think as a composer, I just talked to a young lady yesterday. She's just getting started, and she got her start as a makeup artist. She started doing makeup, and then she's transforming herself into an actress. So now she's acting and doing makeup. And I said, there's 3,000 actresses, but there's probably like 300 makeup artists.
Yeah,
your skill, that skill set, that is something you want to keep current, because there's not
Absolutely.
there's not a lot of you. Because she mentioned she wants to be an actress, and I'm like, right. I get that. I mean, it's awesome being in front of the camera, but it's not so awesome when you have gaps in the employment, or you don't get an audition or whatnot.
Yeah, well, the other thing is to have both skills is really wonderful. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times that I've had, especially recently, like, people say to me, you're the only composer director that I know. And I said, yeah, I think a girlfriend of mine mentioned to me that the only other person that does it in a much bigger capacity for sure is is his name Robert Rodriguez?
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? But he's a composer producer, so he produced the movies. Did he direct them?
No, he directs. Robert Rodriguez.
He does too, right? That's what I thought. Yeah. So there are. I mean, and while I may not be the biggest fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, mad respect for somebody who's doing it. Goodness, to even be put in the same conversation with him, to go, yeah, that's really like, it's him, and then you're the only other one I know that's making strides out there that's doing it, and you're a woman. And I sort of went, wow. And so what's interesting about the young lady that you were speaking with yesterday is that the idea that she can, we're in a place now in the industry, and I think in human history, where there's no need to choose. We can do both. We can do 3 or 5 or 7 or 9 things if we want, because that's just where we are. And how wonderful is that we don't have to give up something in place of something else. We can just keep adding.
If you can handle the workload, if you can, as long as it's important. Right. You got to have, not only can you handle the workload, but you got to be able to disconnect and take time off for yourself, to recharge the batteries and whatnot. I mean, if you just keep working hard and don't stop to smell the roses, well, then you come across we were talking about Billy Joel earlier. I wonder how much of that. There you go. I wonder how much time he truly got to be just by himself on the beach, with a novel in one hand, a Slurpee in the other, and just listening to the Yankees on the radio. I wonder how long. I wonder how much he got to do that. Not enough.
Not nearly enough. I mean, I know he does a lot of it now, and with his family situation being what it is, he has a lot more ability to do that now. But yeah, there's definitely periods of time in life where it's like we don't capitalize on that time. We don't maximize on it enough. We're too busy chasing a dollar or chasing the next big thing, instead of, you're right, stopping to be very present, and that's exceptionally important.
I've already kept you. Wow, you've already been talking almost 2 hours.
I know.
I can keep. Yeah, this is amazing. But I'll start winding it down for us. Um, where do you want to go, Emiko? What's your goals? I mean, let's say the next 2 years. Is there anything that you
Oh,
want to accomplish that you haven't yet? Just
goodness.
like put it on Oscar.
I to win an Oscar. People have been saying that to me more and more and more. I haven't actually put it out there, but people have been just naturally saying it to me, which I think is that's very kind that they feel like that's sort of in my sphere. I think that's lovely. At the moment, the next 2 years of my life are really eaten up with the productions that I've already signed on to do, in terms of like 2 feature films, another documentary. We have another documentary television series that's coming. And then I have to finish composing for this series and another album, touring. I mean, there's a lot to do in the next 24 months that has to get done because we've already signed contracts for it. So, and then from there, really, I enjoy film festivals. I really enjoy traveling and talking about the work that I do and encouraging other people to get in to being creative and to not view this as just a hobby, but that this is a viable, not just a viable source of almost income. I mean, you can be really successful at this and feel good about it. And so I think those are my goals. If an Oscar or a Grammy or an Emmy happens to fall in my lap, I'm not going to say no. But
No.
I'm more focused on the work than I am on the accolade. I know that sounds very cheesy in Hollywood and whatever, but I am. When I look at my calendar, I go, I got to do this in order to get that thing or even be considered for that. I got to do all of this on this list. So
Yeah.
that's
why
really
accolades are important. Accolades are very. I've learned that from a friend of mine named Stephen Foster, who's an actor and a playwright and a damn fine one at that. But he basically, I mean, a lot of people poo-pawed the accolades. He embraces them. He says, when it comes down to getting them, and get them because you damn well earned it, and
absolutely.
so I absolutely, if someone wants to come up there and give you a Grammy, well, you know what? I want you to come back and show it to us because I want to see it. I've never seen a Grammy up close before.
They're heavier. They're heavier than they appear. They are actually very heavy.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, my 8th grade teacher used to say to me, grades are the byproduct of learning. And so even if you don't get an A+ every time, as long as you learn something and you put the work in, that's great. But for the people that want to have straight A's, but they don't want to do the work, you're going to be very disappointed. And so I look at accolades the same way here. It's like, yes, it's a byproduct of the hard work and the recognition of the time and the talent and the labor put into it. But if you just expect it with your hand out without doing everything on your list, you're going to be whistling into the wind,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. This has just
Thank
been
you.
amazing. I'm going to ask the chat real quick. If they have any questions for Emiko, you can go ahead and drop them down. My silent co-host, Mr. Bones, has been inside the chat, dropping down your links. We will be putting I'll just be putting your link tree down below. So people just go and explore. Okay. T Betty's asking, what exactly is a custom-made wireless vortex keyster?
Keytar. Oh, here. Wait. He's right here. This is what T Betty is talking about. This is Carlos.
Okay, I guess Carlos. We're gonna hear Carlos now.
We're not gonna hear Carlos because Carlos isn't hooked up at the moment. But you can at least see Carlos.
Do you have anything hooked up that we could hear?
I don't at the moment because I just played a show yesterday and I just brought my keyboard back up, but I haven't hooked it up to anything. But next time I will. So right, T Betty's question is. The wireless Vortex, thank you for asking. It's a keyboard controller that is wireless, so I don't have to hook up a cable to it. It works off of a USB plug-in portal, like a hub, that sends signals to and from my whatever I'm using to control. So usually my laptop or my computer. So that's what the Vortex is. It's made by a company called Alesis, but the custom one is there's only 2 of these in the world. So there's Carlos, and then actually I can show you. I can get over there real quick. Come on, little girl. Carlos has a twin sister, and her name is Carlotta. And this is Carlotta. So I've got both. And they're the only 2 that exist in the world. It's a design thing. It's not. There's nothing technically inside that's different. It's just that the face of it is different. So
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what makes it custom. Thank you for asking.
We can get copies of your music off your website, right? I mean, physical copies.
I think. Physical copies.
Yeah. Do you have CDs on your website, or are you all stream?
No. There are CDs. There's even vinyl. But our store, I can't remember if the webmaster updated the store in time or not. Let me put it this way: they will be available as of tomorrow. If they're not tonight, they'll be there tomorrow. I can guarantee. My manager and I will guarantee you that. But yeah, we do have physical things available. The whole store is great. There's all sorts of other stuff on there too that if you go visit, you should check it out because it's admittedly very cool stuff that's on there.
Yeah. I watched some of the I watched your podcast, and then I watched you play Carlos, and very cool. I should have said that beforehand instead of springing it on you, but for some reason I thought you just had it there. You could just whip it out and ready to go, But it's not an acoustic guitar.
No. And nobody wants to hear me play guitar. I'm so awful at it. No, thank you.
No, I'm saying it's not as easy. Playing Carlos is not as easy as just grabbing a guitar because you can just grab that and start playing. I mean, Carlos is hooked up and whatnot. Wow. Star-Lord saying that he misses his keyboard, so I think he just inspired him to see about getting a keyboard back.
Good. I'm so glad.
I hope you come back. I mean, we could probably just keep talking. I really do enjoy talking to musicians a lot. That's where my strength was, as even though I didn't play, but I have a really good ear, and I really enjoy talking to you about the creative process of it. When one of your films drops, one of the 5 you got in development, when it gets dropped, let us know. We'll have you come back and talk about it.
I will, absolutely. I can send you, I don't know if you've seen the documentary already that's out, but I can send you that if you haven't. But
I have not. But I'd like to watch it.
I will send that to you. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. So I'll send that to you.
All right. Let me go ahead before we let Emiko go. I'll tell you real quick because I didn't get the chance to do it, but I'll tell you the first week of May's calendar because it's fun and exciting, and you guys all do want to hear it because that's what I do. So on Sunday, May 1st, me and Echo Zero will be co-hosting the Midnight Society, and we are taking a deep dive into the classic martial arts movie Fist of Legends, starring the mighty Jet Li. That will be at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On Tuesday the 3rd, we welcome in our friend Greg from Fit for Expedition. Wednesday the 4th, we are welcoming in Ricky from Old AF Reviewers. Yes, I'm interviewing Ricky, our fun Ricky, and he's going to tell us all about his homemade beer. That has a special start time at 2:00 Eastern Time next Wednesday. On Thursday, we welcome in film director and artist Rich Ragsdale, his new movie, The Long Night, with Scout Taylor Compton, Derek Cara Unger, and Jeff Fahey. Is dropping on Wellgo USA. He'll be here to talk about that on the Thursday, the 5th. And then next Saturday, a week from Saturday, on the 7th of May, we welcome in actor Paul Green, who is a big star on the Hallmark Channel. He has done When Calls to Heart, and he has been the leading man in about 7 or 8 movies. And that's awesome because I love Hallmark movies. More power to him. So that's our very first week. Oh, I will let you do this because I didn't get a chance to. We do have on the 8th, we will be doing a deep dive of Saint Maud with a panel of all stars. That'll be on the 8th on the Midnight Society at 9 p.m. Emiko, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. Thank you again, chat. We will see you Sunday for Fist of Legend. Until the next one, peace. Stay
Thanks
right
for
where you're
having
at.
me.
Yep, stay right where you're at. Okay, let's go.